Yeah, from 14 on, I started with singing lessons. First, just normal pop singing lessons, and simultaneously, I was listening to rock bands. Then I got into metal, and then I thought, the combination of metal and classical female voice is nice. Maybe I should try the classical vocal lessons. And then I switched vocal teachers as well, and I found a really nice guy
Hmm.
who tried to kind of prepare me to go to the conservatory. But then I ended up in a metal band and took my things and traveled the world. Hello.
Hi, Simone. How are you?
I'm great. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. Thank you so much for doing
Perfect.
this.
Yeah. How are you doing?
I am fantastic. Well, my name's Adam, and this is about you and your journey in music. And obviously, we'll talk about the new album that's coming out next month. And yeah, and I always kind of start off with like your backstory, your origin story. So, first off, where were you born and raised?
I was born in a city in the south of the Netherlands called Heerlen, and I was raised the neighboring town, Hoensbroek,
Okay.
and 40 years ago exactly.
Wow. What was it like growing up there? And that's pretty close from what I was researching, like to the Germany border. Is that right? Or
Yeah,
no?
it's
Okay.
actually yeah, it's quite close to Germany and Belgium also.
Wow. So were you able to go? Would you go into those countries as a kid or no? Or wasn't it not that close?
No, but the Germans would always come to the Netherlands when they had like some kind of holiday, but I didn't start traveling abroad up until I was 14 was the first time I went to Germany, like on a school exchange, and that felt like traveling the world. It was only 1.5 hours by bus. Little did I know that I would be traveling the world many times a
Yeah,
couple
for the
years
rest of your
later
life. Yeah,
for
that's
the rest of my
amazing.
life. Yeah, living out of a suitcase.
That's wild. So when it comes to music, do you come from a musical family or like a creative household at all?
Well, I would say my father is kind of creative, talented, but not like musically, but more with crafts. He
Okay.
was like a wood worker, or I mean, originally he is a nurse, but he built half the furniture in the house. He's very handy and
Okay.
loved to listen to music. The radio was always running and can play a little piano. And there were some flutes in the closet, and he sang in a choir as a little boy in the church. But other than that, none of them are professional musicians, but great music admirers.
Okay. And how do you ended up playing flute, didn't you? At an early age?
Yeah, yeah, it's mandatory in primary school, and
To play an instrument, or was it flute
to
mandatory?
play the flute. Yeah, like
Interesting.
the normal flute for 1 year. And after that, my dream was to play the piccolo, which is this very small flute, which has a very high frequency. And
Mhm.
in order to do that, I had to learn the standard bigger metal flute
Mhm.
before I could do the piccolo. But I kind of quit because my teacher was, yeah, not the nicest. And I
Isn't
switched to
that
vocal
unfortunate?
lessons. Yeah, it is.
Like you have a teacher that are just, I've heard this before with people taking piano lessons and stuff. It's like, well, I just want to learn how to play whatever pop songs on the radio or whatever. And it's like, no, you will learn how to play these scales and this, which I understand for if you're down the line, but if you're a kid and you just want to learn, like who really cares?
No, I think it's very important that the teachers have a good chemistry with the children. And
Mhm.
she was definitely very strict, and I just didn't look forward to go to lessons at all. So it kind of took away the fun of it.
Mhm.
And with my singing teachers, I had such a good connection, and it's very important. And not everybody that is a teacher has actually the human tools to teach. You know what I mean? Like it's a lot of psychology. It's a lot of how to, be around people, and the energy that you give off. It needs to, it needs to click, I guess. And we were not a match, so simply
Okay.
put.
Sure. And so you decided to start singing lessons.
Yeah, from 14 on, I started with singing lessons. First, just normal pop singing lessons, and simultaneously, I was listening to rock bands. Then I got into metal, and then I thought, the combination of metal and classical female voice is nice. Maybe I should try the classical vocal lessons. And then I switched vocal teachers as well, and I found a really nice guy
Mhm.
who tried to kind of prepare me to go to the conservatory. But then I ended up in a metal band and took my things and traveled the world.
Wow. What, drew like, were you listening like, what kinda drew you as far as music goes to metal? Like, or, like, how did you get to eventually liking that style of music? Was it people you were hanging out with that were into metal?
Yeah, it was my first boyfriend. I already loved rock music,
Mhm.
and I was into alternative lifestyle, flare pants, and all of that. Loved to listen to Deftones, Radiohead, Silverchair. Always had a weakness for men with long hair. And then my first boyfriend, he was the tallest guy in high school, and he was wearing Cradle of Filth t-shirts. And I
Oh,
thought,
damn.
ooh, he looks cool. And I considered myself already back then a little bit more like an outcast and wanted to connect with the other alternative kids. And yeah, then I got into black metal, and a friend of his borrowed me a CD from Nightwish, the first Nightwish album, Angels Fall First.
Mhm.
And then I heard this classical voice, and I thought, this is amazing. And then a whole new world opened for me. And eventually I got in touch with Mark, who was back then in After Forever.
Mhm.
I was 16, and I boldly told him that I sing as well. And then I sang for him on the phone, and he fell in love with my voice. We fell in love with each other. So we had also, during the early days of Epica, we were also in a relationship, which lasted around 4 years. And then we split, but we stuck together as colleagues and friends
Mhm.
for the sake of Epica.
Wow. I mean, that must have been tough to do, to stick you're in a
Yeah,
relationship with someone and then to stay in a band and
yeah.
be with
We
them
had
all
a
the time.
transition phase, but it didn't take that long. And we both realized, the relationship, if we're not a good fit romantically, we are a good fit musically, and we shouldn't
Yeah,
give up on that. So we fought very hard on to maintain that, and knew that we had something very special. And we were both professional enough as well.
sure. With Epica, how do you said you met Mark, like, how do you meet him? And then you sang to him on the phone, like, did you guys just meet? Like, where do you meet? And then how does that build? And then he's leaving his band, let's start this project.
Yeah, I don't even know where we met for the first time. Um, I think we first just chatted for a while,
Mhm.
and we had a phone call, and then we started meeting up in person. And he was still in After Forever back then. And then when that ended, he wanted to start a new band, and he wanted me to be the vocalist. But back then I was still in high school, and I said, no, I need to finish high school. And I
Mhm.
couldn't find a fitting singer. Nothing worked out. And then he kind of asked me again, and I was very shy and very, teenager.
Sure.
And I thought, okay, you know what? Maybe I should just give it a go. And I did. And then things started rolling. We started doing gigs, and I started noticing that I was so tired that I couldn't really finish high school. Or I chose to not finish high school to go for one project only. I thought, if the music doesn't work out, I can always go back and study, but this feels like this is the path I gotta take.
Mhm. Did you ever go back or no?
No,
That's
no,
awesome.
Epica's my school, my university, everything together. Yeah.
That's a cool. Were you in a band prior to Epica or no? Or this is your first band?
My Epica is my first band. Yeah. Yeah. I,
Wow.
I joined a band's rehearsal back in the day, which I was also, I think, when I was 14 or something. They were also a black metal band, but I never actually sang a note for them. But
Okay.
yeah.
When it came to like, so when you joined Epica, were you involved in like the songwriting process? Like, how did that work? Like, I mean, to be never been in a band, and obviously Mark had a band that was successful for a while, and it's okay, let's start this band. So there's going to be a tension on the band, I would imagine, a little bit right away. Not only that, but you're 17 and you're never played before. Was that scary, or like how did you kind of fight through that?
Yeah, I had to kind of overcome a little bit of a mental block to sing in front of people. I only had one concert in my life before that and was 12. It was a primary school. I sang a song from Whitney Houston, and I really felt shortly before the performance that I was going to die of a heart attack. I was so nervous. So after that, I thought performing is probably not something for me. But if you think about it, a 12-year-old,
Yeah,
shy teenager, um, and then we started with Epica, we started rehearsing. But the guys were very patient, and they made me feel comfortable and overcome certain blockades, whatever it was that I didn't feel safe opening up and sing for them. But
mhm,
eventually, the ice broke and I could practice with them in the rehearsal room in the basement of Mark's grandmother. And since Mark already had kind of a lot of experience, he invested in a great in-ear monitor for me so that he knew already how incredibly fragile the voice is, and that with those rehearsing rooms, things can get loud, your hearing can get damaged, you can lose your voice. So we bought from the little money we had, we bought a first in-ear monitor for me so I could hear myself really well. And that was a great help. And then we just started jamming, singing along to the compositions that he made, coming up with vocal lines, writing lyrics. I remember back in the day, I was reading dictionaries, literally, to uh, enhance my English because I could speak English really well. But of course, writing lyrics is something else. And I became
mhm,
obsessed with expensive words. And I made these huge documents on my computer with a list of cool words. Before there was thesaurus, of course. It's really like
sure.
23 years ago. And that's a little bit how it started, the early days of Epica. Yeah,
Wow. What were those first shows like? Like, was it, do you remember your first show? I mean, from 12
I
being
do.
nervous and then going into
Yeah,
like, okay, now we've got this band, we've been rehearsing, I've got to do this again. And what was that like?
yeah. I remember I think we had a show scheduled, but then Mark called and he said, "We have the opportunity to support Anathema in one of their Dutch shows." And we would be in front of around 800 people. And we didn't even have enough songs to fill up a support set list.
Wow.
But Mark bluffed his way through that. And then we just had to come up with more songs. We had to work even harder. And at that time, it was the 15th of December, 2002. I was singing in a choir, a Christmas choir organized by my singing teacher.
Hmm.
And I was double booked because I had a show with my choir. And I also, by that time, never told my parents I was in a metal band. They just thought I had classical singing lessons and that I was singing in a choir. And then I kind of had to come clean to my parents and I told them, you know what? I actually am also singing in the band with Mark, and I can't do the whole choir show because I have to leave after the first part to go to Tilburg, where we had our very first show. And I was also very nervous back then. And I was standing on stage like a sack of potatoes, didn't know what to do yet, felt very exposed on the stage. And I remember afterwards thinking, oh no, I'm going to have to do this more and more. And more shows were coming in. But we started, we also recorded a video shoot where I learned a lot how to move and, go wild on stage.
Hmm.
And that was basically the only time that I was nervous, when I was 12 and with the first Epica show. And after that, I felt like, this is my place to be on
Yeah.
stage.
Telling your parents, "Hey, I'm actually in this metal band and we're playing tonight. Like, I'm only gonna do the first half of that." What was their reaction?
I think they were like, okay, well, if that's what you want to do, do that.
Oh,
But of
wow.
course,
Supportive.
a little later after that, then I told them I want to quit high school because I was 18. I was, an adult officially. Definitely not mentally yet, but I could make the decision to quit high school and to go full time all in for the music. And there they were not so happy because they thought, first of all, they didn't know anything about metal music, and they kind of know the music business is hard. And I think every parent wants the best for their child. They want them to first finish high school, study, and that was not the path that I was taking. And they just had to kind of deal with it because I was an adult on paper.
Mhm. Sure.
And yeah, I did my own thing. And now, many years later, they're super proud and supportive. And they're always shocked with all the traveling, all the tours, and the jet lags. And they're always a little worried. But I guess as a parent, that's one of the things you do.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, to was the band doing, like, fairly well at that point when you decided to, or you just kinda had this feeling like, "This is gonna do something," or, like, I mean, that's a big risk to take, right? To be like, "I'm gonna stop going to school, I'm just gonna do
Yeah.
this all the time."
Yeah. We didn't make any money in the beginning with Epica, but of course, some of the band members were studying. I was still living with my parents, which meant I did not have to pay many bills yet. So I
Mhm.
could invest all that time into Epica and tour a lot so that we could grow and eventually earn money. And I remember the first paycheck also that I got. It was then for me so much money. Uh, and I bought some makeup for that money, which, if I think of it now, was not so much money, but back then it was a lot, and I was so excited. I even invested my weekly allowance in buying batteries for my in-ear pack, So
Wow.
we started small, but we toured a lot, and I guess that contributed to the growth of Epica, and then started to go on tour with other bands. We did a lot of support tours. Yeah,
Yeah, what
that's a
was,
little
like,
bit.
kind of an early milestone for the band? Was it, like, getting your first record deal or putting out your first album? I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
we
sure
were
others.
very lucky that we got a record deal immediately because Mark was on very good terms with the record company he worked with After Forever,
Mhm.
and that gave us that push and financial support to already record first a demo. We recorded 2 songs, and after that we recorded a full-length CD professional production with Sasha Peth in Wolfsburg, the north of Germany. And back then, the support of record companies is different compared to now. The amount of money that a record company puts in a new band has become less now. I think it's harder for new artists to get a good record deal in order to
Mhm.
have that starting budget to do a good production. And I think that really helped us as well, that we could immediately record a CD. Great, yeah, great start, kickstart for Epica.
Yeah, wow. And then for you were also, I mean, you got to tour the world, you got to do everything. I mean, from that first album, they put you on tour and you're supporting other artists. Like, when does your first, like, headlining shows come around? Was that a few years later, or like what was kind of like the next jump up?
That's a good question. I actually have no idea from if we already did headline tours with. I know with the Phantom Agony, we went to Mexico and we did a headline tour in Mexico. I
Mhm.
was 18 back then, and I had bad luck because I had appendicitis and I had to have surgery in Mexico.
Oh my gosh.
And I was in a hospital for a week, but I still managed to finish the tour. And that was a headline tour. Yeah. We
Okay.
started to travel abroad very quickly, but I think in Europe and North America, we mainly did support tours for the first couple of years.
Okay. Wow. And then you ended up signing with Nuclear Blast, who you're currently still with,
Yes.
right? On
Yeah.
the third album.
Yes.
What was why'd you decide to go with them, or like what like, I don't know if you mind talking about that.
Well, we had a couple contenders, but Nuclear Blast just had the best offer. It's plain
Mhm.
business, and of course their catalog.
It's crazy, yeah.
Having a lot of main artists in the scene, of course, is the best business card you can have. So we had a good feeling with Nuclear Blast.
And now you're at what, album 9 coming out?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. I mean, to think of that, you've been doing this since you were 17 years old. Like, that's so wild. And to put 9 albums out, and nowadays, not even a lot of bands are doing albums, really, right? It's more like, let's do a few singles and then lump it together into an EP. But Epic has always been like an album band.
Yeah, we have 9 now, almost 9 full studio albums. We have a couple of EPs.
Hmm.
We even have an album called The Score, which was music that was written for a Dutch movie.
Yeah, which is very
We did,
different than the
yeah,
Epica stuff.
yeah. It's more like this, yeah, orchestral part of Epica,
Hmm.
instrumental, no vocals on there. And then we have a couple of EPs, and yeah, we've been busy.
A little bit, yeah. Well, talk to me about going into the ninth album. I think I was reading an interview about uh, the record prior, Omega, where you were talking about doing more live instruments on that album. Did that continue into this new one?
Yeah, definitely. We recorded with the Prague Orchestra on Omega, and we loved it so much that we asked them again. We hired them again for this album. And besides that, we have a couple of really great musicians from Holland. Ben, who is the violinist, and then we have Jeroen, who plays the flute. Then there is one day where the guys are recording percussion instruments and they take everything they can find in the studio. So it's, of course, we use samples when we're doing demo recordings.
Hmm.
And on this album, we wanted to have a little bit more modern touch to certain songs, and we used many different synthesizers. So it's cool that, our producer Joost, he also thinks big, and he's very open-minded, and he lets us experiment, which is great.
Hmm. Yeah, is it hard to you know continue to kind of like when you have 9, you're on your ninth album? Do you feel like it's hard to keep pushing the barrier, so to speak, or trying to continue to be creative and kind of come up with new stuff? Is that hard?
It's not really hard. It's because we have 5 people in the band. All the guys write songs.
Yeah.
So we have quite a big selection to choose from.
Okay.
And after Omega, then the world shut down with the pandemics, and then we wanted to do something fun, a studio project, which is then the Alchemy Project EP,
Hmm.
where we worked with other artists in the music industry. And there we started to experiment a little more because we felt, okay, we are not so much confined by our name Epica because we're working with other artists. Let's push the boundaries and see where we can take it. And the response to that was amazing. And that kind of gave us the push and the freedom to think more outside of the box, and that we can expand our horizon musically. And that's what we continued then on a spiral.
Okay. So yeah, so tell me about that. Going into this album, did you know you were writing an album? And how does when do you start working on the album? Because the other one came out, yeah, you did all the production and stuff in 2020, and then it came out in 21 because of the pandemic,
Yeah.
obviously. But and you had all
Yeah.
these other projects. You even put out a record yourself, right? Last year.
Yes.
So
2024 was crazy. It was a musical year. It was sometimes very challenging but I do like a challenge, and I think it's good as an artist to sometimes get out of your comfort zone.
Hmm.
And for Aspiral, we had 3 writing camps where we rented a house and we could get together and really focus on the music. No shows, no tours planned, and really, everybody in the same house, music from morning till evening, everybody working together under the supervision of our producer Joost. So that was very beneficiary for the music, for us to really come together as a group. And yeah, I look back with warm feelings on that time. But I'm also happy that I don't have to write or record another album this year.
I bet. Was it hard to jump between your album and the Epica album?
Well, it was literally coming off the train after a recording with Arjen Lucassen, who wrote the songs for Vermilion,
Hmm.
and then going to the Epica writing camp.
Oh my gosh.
So
Just
yeah,
nonstop. It wasn't not much overlap, but just a bunch going
no,
on.
and I even did a collaboration with Charlotte for her album. I sang on one of her songs, Dopamine, and I did a video for that as well. I
Mhm.
don't know how I did it all in 2024, but I'm here. I'm still alive.
That's good. That is good. Did you guys have a lot of music to pick through when it came to the track listing for the new album?
Yeah, we had a big selection of songs, and that's how we started the writing camp. Everybody, sat down at the big table, and we started going through all the demo tracks, and then we made a selection of those songs where everybody would simultaneously work on. And and then, like a little bit later in the demo stages, then we made a smaller selection because we learned from the past. For example, the holographic principle, we had so many songs and we worked on all the songs that it was a little too much for us. So we learned from that we need to make a smaller selection in order to give every song all the time and energy that it needs in order to, reach its full potential.
Mhm. And then yeah, and then you could so from there, then you start dwindling it down to whatever to what
Yeah,
makes the album.
narrowing it down to these 11 songs that are now on the album. And we also did The Ghost in Me, which was another project for a Dutch amusement park.
Oh,
And we also
wow.
worked and recorded that at the same time as The Spiral.
Oh my gosh, you all are very, very busy.
Yes, very busy.
And then you're doing some shows in the United States coming up as well to support
Yes, we're
it.
3
That's
shows.
amazing.
Yeah, we have 3 shows. We couldn't, on short notice, really set up a whole tour, but we're working on that as well. And since we're going to Mexico anyway, we thought maybe we can touch down in North America and do a couple shows. So I'm very happy for that.
Yeah, New York, LA, and Atlanta. That's awesome.
Yes,
So, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Are you gonna do you think once the album comes out, you'll do another big run of the States, or you don't know
for
yet?
sure. Yeah, we don't know if we can manage to do it this year, but definitely next year we're gonna come back full force for a full length tour.
Love it. Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for doing this. I have one more question. I wanna know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Always believe in yourself. Don't listen too much to other people's opinions and just stay true to your art.
Bringing it backward.